Through doing snare removal operations and snare sweeps, we encounter quite a variety of different types of snares, traps, and poaching. We encounter different types of poaching as well. So the snares can be divided up into different groups. We've got the guys that are really, it's subsistence. They set small snares. In our area, they focus on spring hares and scrub hare. And then game birds, quite often they would target guinea fowl and francolin. So this is on a smaller scale, and I would say very few of these snares that we encounter. Then we have the slightly larger wire and cable snares that they set underneath fences. So this is also focusing on subsistence. This is a guy that's trying to just catch something and take home to have food on his table. Then we start to go into the more serious stuff. Cable and wire snares, where recently we've been getting this more and more. Cables that are almost as thick as my little finger, or they use multiple strands. So recently we removed over 200 snares in a very small area that all were made from 4 strands of cable woven together to create a very, very big, very strong snare, able to anchor a buffalo bull on the spot and kill it right there. What we just found now is a scene where a waterbuck was caught in a snare. So you see, this is the cable snares that they use quite often in these areas, and this makes part of a elephant-proof fence. So they take these cables, and it's an individual strand. There's 4 strands of this around a sisal rope that they use as elephant-proof fencing. So the poachers steal these fences, and then they utilize the cables as snare material. So this, you can see, would have been, it was attached here. You can see where the waterbuck struggled and fought, tried to get out. So this would have been set along this little game path here. So I think it's been too disturbed. You won't be able to see where it was attached, but it would have been held open here using mupani bark strips to the tree branches, and then the animal walks through, gets caught around the neck, and then you can see the damage. All of this, you can see this is how the animal thrashed around. You can see how the vegetation was disturbed. The bark on this tree, these lines, all of this. This is how the animal struggled, thrashed around to be able to break free. And here you see is the remains of the waterbuck. It was an adult female, and by the looks of it, they didn't come back to harvest anything. They just left it. So this is one of the reasons why we do what we do. This is wasteful. I mean, why set snares, catch animals in them, and then never come back and utilize any of the meat? It's an absolute waste. And it's one of the worst ways that an animal can die. I mean, look at how it thrashed around, how it fought to try and break free. Animals die in snares like the waterbuck that we've got up there. They're left to rot in the snares, but you've got multiple other snares still in the area. So then you end up with scavengers coming in. And these are signs of spotted hyena that have been feeding on these carcasses. So now, inevitably, they end up being caught in snares as bycatch, because they're usually not the targeted species, although they're quite heavily harvested nowadays for muti. So they get caught in snares, break off the snares, and then we struggle, and at great cost as well, to dart and get these animals to actually get the snares removed from them. Just pull this over the side without turning on the other side yet. I think it's
just meat?
It's just what he's eating. Let's chuck it aside there, guys. Don't forget it there.
actually, oh, it's got it back there. Okay, another snare. And here was one. Did somebody remove a snare from you already?
Hy was net daar.
Het jy hom afgehaal?
Nee, daar was niks nie, dis net die merkie wat daar sit.
Yep, you can see there was a snare. Oh, this is interesting. Okay, so quite often what we see is how the snare was tied open. Even after a snare was removed, you can see there's the lines where another snare was set, and this is what they use to tie them open. So this is something that we always keep our eyes open for in the bush. It's not natural, it stands out. So they would have tied the snare with that to keep it open on this little pathway, but this has been removed, so possibly by the poachers themselves or rangers that came through here previously and removed this one.
We also deal with traps every now and then. So we've had a spring action, like a whip snare, so spring action snares that they set, and you can see there's a bit of engineering going into that. So it's quite well thought out and well executed, where they focus these usually on greater cane rats. So this is also subsistence. So they would use a cable snare at the front, and they would have usually a mopani branch that's bent, and this would have a whip effect and like basically break the animal's neck when it's caught in the snare. Then we deal on a lesser scale with gin traps. We do find them every now and then, but it's something that's not really used in our area. We have had bird traps and fish traps. So the fish traps in certain areas are quite a problem. On one farm, on one day, we removed 14 fish traps. It catches anything and everything, any fish that goes in there. Every now and then we get to encounter poaching using dogs and spears. So they bring in dogs into the reserves and use the dogs to actually corner animals, and then they dispatch the animal using a snare or even a rifle. So we deal with rifle poaching as well. We find even up to buffalo, giraffe, that have been shot and then butchered, and all the meat is carried out or even driven out by bicycle. So we get to deal with different levels of poaching, different types of poaching, and all the different types of snares and traps that they use in the bush.